Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. I'm thrilled you're here, because today's story is the kind of reveal that makes even longtime fans sit up and listen. You've already seen the title, so you know exactly who we're talking about: Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu, two stars whose names are practically shorthand for chemistry, talent, and that elusive spark that makes a screen romance feel real. But today we're stepping beyond the scripts and the spotlight, because word is spreading that Barış has reasons to be worried for Elçin. Yes, worried, and for reasons that go deeper than tabloid noise. If you love a good industry mystery mixed with heartfelt emotion, stay right here, because this one is for you. Before we dive into the heart of it, a gentle reminder: if you haven't yet, hit subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets so you never miss what we're preparing for you next. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep bringing you stories that matter to fans like you. Now, let's get into the pulse of what everyone's whispering about. The relationship between Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu has always been admired. Their on-screen alchemy and Karalık Aşk didn't just make a series into a phenomenon, it sparked a connection that fans felt was too real to end with the final episode. Over time, that magic translated into a bond beyond the cameras: private, careful, and quietly strong. They've remained measured in public, letting the work talk while staying close enough to confirm what their supporters always sensed: between them, there is mutual respect, real partnership, and a steady kind of care that we don't always get to see in show business. But fame comes with shadows. And lately, those shadows seem to be drawing near, pressing on questions that won't go away. Who, or what, is putting Elçin in a position that makes Barış uneasy? Why now? The speculation is loud, but if we filter the noise, the strongest thread points to Elçin's career itself. She's known for choosing complex roles, not the safe ones. She's the actress who says yes to nuance, yes to risk, yes to stories that ask something of her heart and her body. And according to whispers from sets and schedules, one of her current or upcoming projects may involve intense scenes, physically demanding, emotionally grueling, or set in places that are more unpredictable than usual. It's worth remembering how deep actors sometimes must go. When a character demands darkness or fragility, it can take a real toll. If Elçin has embraced a role with sharp edges, trauma, fear, isolation, then it wouldn't be a surprise if Barış is watching closely, noticing the moments between scenes when the exhaustion lingers in her eyes, or the way she carries a character's heaviness home. That immersion is part of the craft, but it can be draining if not tenderly managed. And then there's the industry itself. Turkish television and film are competitive, high-speed arenas, expectations are high, schedules are tight, and the appetite for the next hit never sleeps. With that pace comes pressures from directors who want more, producers who demand endurance, and a media cycle that can turn nuance into headlines. If Elçin has been dealing with complicated dynamics at work, whether tensions inside a production or the usual tug-of-war between art and commerce, it would be perfectly natural for Barış to brace, to worry, to want to shield her from any harm that isn't visible on screen but bites in private. Let's not forget the simplest truth: health matters. Long hours, night shoots, relentless travel, icy dawn calls, and sun-baked exterior sets can wear anyone down. If you followed Elçin's career, you know she doesn't halfway anything. When she commits, she gives herself completely. So if her schedule has sharpened lately, if there's been a sudden uptick in commitments, a change in routine, or a push toward a kind of role that requires constant reset, then Barış would be the first to sense the strain, the tension in her shoulders, the quiet moments she hides from everyone else. Concern doesn't need scandal, sometimes it's just love noticing what the rest of us can't see from the outside. Another angle to consider is the nature of the projects themselves. Actors sometimes find themselves at the crossroads of art and personal values. A role can be brilliant, but come wrapped in questions about boundaries and intimate scenes, about the tone of a script, about the atmosphere on set. There are choices that look golden on paper but feel complicated in the heart. With Barış's own experience, he knows the pitfalls, the compromises, the silent costs that come with certain kinds of work. If he sees Elçin being tempted by a project that asks for too much, or that feels ethically tangled, it's not control to speak up, it's devotion. It's partnership. Now think about public exposure. They both know how relentless the spotlight can be. One candid photo in the wrong moment, one misinterpreted expression, and suddenly an avalanche of commentary drowns everything else. Has there been a recent set encounter, a paparazzi snag, a manufactured drama around an innocent interaction? If publicity has turned invasive, then Barry's concerns might be less about storylines and more about safety and dignity, the kind of guard you raise not because the world is cruel every day, but because it only takes one thoughtless moment to make life harder than it needs to be. There's also the practical side, filming locations. Not every project is a closed studio with glossy craft tables and tidy call sheets. Some shoots run into remote stretches of coastline, into crowded bazaars, into mountain roads that cut off after sunset. If Elçin's new work demands travel to places with thin infrastructure or unfamiliar crews, the risks go up. Not dramatically, but enough to make a partner pay attention. Logistics can get messy. Communication slips. Security can be an afterthought. For someone like Barış, who is known for being grounded and thoughtful, that's more than enough reason to keep a protective eye on the situation. What complicates all of this is how private they are. They do not parade their personal moments, and they do not explain themselves to keep a rumor mill fed. That silence is part of their strength, but it makes it hard for the rest of us to know exactly what's happening behind the curtain. And yet, the simple fact that this conversation, Barış's worry for Elçin, is even being whispered at all tells us there's something real underneath it. Love doesn't invent shadows. It senses them. So what does this mean for their relationship? At first glance, it might sound like a warning bell. But look closer, when a partner says, "I'm worried," and backs that up with care rather than ultimatums, that's not a fracture, it's a foundation. It suggests they communicate, they look out for each other, and they know when to intervene gently. If the concern centers on a specific project, then we can hope that Elçin's team is tight, her stunt coordinators are meticulous, her schedule's humane, her boundaries honored. If the concern is broader, about the churning nature of the business, then perhaps this is one more test they will navigate the way they always have, quietly, firmly, together. It's entirely possible the truth is simple, too. Maybe it's the kind of stress that has no headline. Maybe it's just a few too many early calls, a script that demands sleeping with sorrow for a month, a location that bites with cold wind. Sometimes the most powerful worries are the everyday ones, the ones that make a person say, "I see you, and I want you to be okay." Let's dig a little deeper into the psychology of performance, because it's essential to understanding what may be happening here. When an actor like Elçin takes on a role defined by grief or fear, the emotional echo doesn't always obey the director's cut. Barış would know this, both from his own arcs and from watching her process up close. He knows what it's like to shake a character off and still feel its shadow. And if her newest character carries a heavier story, say, a survivor steeled by loss, or a woman negotiating the kind of choices that fracture the soul, then he might be betting on her strength, while also recognizing her limits. Both can be true at once. Then there's the social side. Social media is relentless, magnifying every frame and comment. The smallest detail, a costume, a co-star's stance, a behind-the-scenes tease, can be spun into a narrative that has nothing to do with reality. If Elçin's projects have brought her into spaces where speculation feeds on the tiniest crumbs, Barış's concern may also be about the aftermath. The fatigue of defending your life against strangers' fantasies, the ache of being misread when you're already depleted from the work itself. But here's the heart of it, concern doesn't mean conflict. In fact, it may be a sign of remarkable health. A relationship grows stronger when each person can voice fears without being punished for having them. Imagine the conversations we don't see, two people at a kitchen table, touching hands, one saying, "I'm proud of you," the other replying, "I know, but tell me what scares you." That kind of dialogue is not dramatic enough for headlines, but it builds a quiet fortress. If that's what's happening between Barış and Elçin, then this moment might be less about worry and more about choosing each other again. We should also consider the team around them. The best productions are ecosystems of care, producers who prioritize safety, directors who honor boundaries, coordinators who call time when bodies are tired. If the root of Barry's fear is tied to logistics, then the solution lies in preparation, more rehearsals, better safety checks, clearer schedules, honest conversations about what is and isn't negotiable. If it's tied to emotional wear, then the solution is gentler still, space to decompress, days that include silence, rituals that mark the difference between the person and the character. As for the public peace, there is a way to manage that too. They have always understood timing. How to share just enough to anchor the truth without feeding the frenzy. A carefully chosen photo, a calm statement, or simply the consistency of their presence together can do what 1,000 rumors cannot. It can restore proportion. It can remind everyone that behind the glare of the set lights, there are two people who choose calm over chaos. So where does that leave us? With a portrait of a couple confronting the ordinary perils of an extraordinary profession. The shadow hovering over Elçin's new chapter doesn't have to be a monster. It might just be a signal, a pause, a reminder to balance ambition with care. And if you've watched them over the years, watched the way they listen, the way they don't perform their private lives, you can probably guess how this resolves, not with fireworks, but with steadiness. With practical adjustments. With love. What's certain is that the concern itself is telling. It speaks to how deeply they value one another, how clearly they see the costs of the careers they've chosen. If the anxiety comes from a specific role, then let it be tempered by professional wisdom and a team that's fully awake to what the work demands. If it comes from the larger grind, then let it be answered by rest, by boundaries, by reminders that no new hit is worth breaking the heart that makes the work possible. And if the truth is both simple and complicated at once, as life so often is, then perhaps the headline is this. Barış loves Elçin enough to be wary when the path looks steep, and Elçin respects him enough to listen without losing herself. That is not drama. That is devotion. We've explored the most likely scenarios, from set risks and emotional immersion to industry pressures and the glare of public attention. We've weighed the quiet realities of health and routine against the kind of roles that can leave fingerprints on a person's spirit. We've acknowledged their need for privacy and how that can both protect them and fuel speculation. Through it all, one thing remains clear: theirs is a bond built as much on tenderness as on talent. Now it's your turn. What do you think might be at the root of Barış's concern for Elçin? Have you seen similar situations among friends or in your own life, moments when love looks like a gentle alarm rather than a grand gesture? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective always deepens the conversation here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets. And before you go, if this story resonated with you and you want more deep dives into the human side of the entertainment world, give this video a like, send it to a friend who's been following their journey since Karalık Ask, and don't forget to subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets with notifications on. Your support is what keeps us here, telling the stories that live between the scenes. Thank you for watching, and we'll meet again in the next video.